Hey, what is up, guys? This is Saving Private Ryan 13, aka EMRM, which is my PSN ID. And today I have I guess it's not really it's an interesting story that I found. Not necessarily important in the world, the US, but I think it's very interesting. Basically, there's this guy, he lives in Texas, his name is Kenneth Robinson. And there's this very nice neighborhood. The house he is in is about $330,000 of value. And he's basically bought it for $16. How? That just sounds, I mean, is this a joke? It sounds ridiculous. Basically, there's this law called adverse possession in Texas, and it's basically what he has used to gain the right to occupy this home. What happened was the house was in foreclosure, and so the owner had to abandon the property. And then basically what happened after that was then the mortgage company that the original owner was working with went under. And from that point, Robinson was able to use the adverse possession to fill out paperwork, which costs $16 to submit, which is where the $16 for the house has come from. And basically what that does is it gives him the right to occupy this house. And the only way for the owner to force Robinson out of this house is to first off pay the mortgage that he owes, and after that he would have to file a lawsuit in court, and obviously that's very costly, and it's not likely it's going to happen at this point, just because that's ridiculous. So yeah, that's basically that story, and I found that extremely interesting. Now, my thoughts. Well, first off, there's a lot of the neighbors are complaining, and in the beginning they even called the police to try to get him to force him out. At which point they said that they cannot, because it's a civil matter, and therefore the police cannot get involved. And I personally think that it should be props to this guy. I mean, he got this house for, I haven't done the math. It's got to be exponentially less money than it's worth. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So props. That's why I think that the neighborhood owners around him, I mean, it's bullshit. I mean, obviously one lady I saw in one of the newscasts about it online was, like, you should go through and buy the house like everyone else did. Well, why? He now has that possession of it. It's not, what he's doing is not illegal. It's not hurting anybody. And basically what he's done is work the system. And, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. If anything, that's that's pretty American of him, if you think about it. Alright. So I understand why the people around would probably be a little angry. They've got this guy who basically moved in this house for $16. And one, obviously this man who's moved in probably doesn't have the means to actually afford the house through the usual manner, which I can understand where that might get a little bit nervous, make the people around him a little nervous, what kind of person he is. But I mean, he's not hurting anyone. He's put up no do not trespass signs all around the house. I guess that's to ward off, because of the police and all the people around him are angry. But yeah, I mean, he's not hurting anyone. Basically, he's all good. Another thing is and after, I believe, 3 years, he can file with the court to officially take possession of the house. Basically, the deed and the title would be in his name rather than, I'm not sure who it is in right now. Yeah, so then he would own it. Granted, the house in its current condition has no electricity, no water. You know, it's not, it's livable, but obviously you don't have those two things. And for this guy, he's probably, I mean, he's probably okay with that, considering he's obviously probably didn't have much access to that. Well, maybe he probably did. I shouldn't say that. No, I shouldn't say that. But yeah, I mean, he can live in this house. Basically, he's set up like a little, just set up camp in the kitchen and living room, and he's basically just chilling in there. And apparently this isn't obviously this isn't a common way to go about buying or getting possession of a house, but it isn't unheard of, apparently. And there's websites that you can find on Google. For example, here on one of these articles about it, one's called adversepossession.com, and for their motto or slogan, something like for $39.95, the average person can learn how to acquire valuable real estate for free. Basically, it's teaching you about this law and how to use it for your advantage. And an important distinction to make is that this isn't squatting. Squatting is when you unlawfully occupy a vacant property or any other kind of real estate. So basically, if it's squatting would be like if a house is in foreclosure and someone just went over and set up shop in the living room and they never went about filing for the title or the deed or talking to whoever the rightful owner is and getting permission. So that's basically what squatting is. And this isn't simply because he basically bought this. I explained it. That's basically why it's not squatting. And originally, this adverse possession law came about in the 1800s as a way to ensure that a property that was abandoned would stay maintained and monitored. And it was supposed to promote a better neighborhood by keeping abandoned properties from falling into disrepair and having potential drug gangs or say some kind of meth lab from being constructed in that kind of house. Also, here's a quote from one of the neighbors that Ferrara, actually, my bad. They say, "It's quite an un-American notion that someone can take another's property without paying for it. After all, even the government has to pay for your property if it decides to take it from you." And to that, I have to say, I completely disagree. One, technically he did pay for it. I guess $16 as compared to the $330,000 that it's actually worth is basically nothing, but he did pay for it, and I'm obviously taking that as a pretty literal interpretation of what that person is saying, but gotta be, as long as I'm gonna be objective. Another thing, I agree, no, my bad. I do not agree that is un-American what this man did. In fact, I think it's the opposite. This is a very American thing to do. I mean, think about it. America, the land of opportunity, freedom. This guy, obviously he was he's free in space, but he took advantage of this very unique opportunity. I mean, he took full advantage of this opportunity. How am I trying to put this? It's not un-American, and that is the problem where that's why I think America's gone a little bit astray, is in this idea that we are entitled to all of this. That's a very common thing that, it's pretty easy to see around. I'm sure everyone knows someone, has a friend or family member who just feels they're entitled to everything. And that's basically where I think that these neighbors are having a problem. They feel that, because they worked and are able to pay for their homes like most people do, that, this guy is cheating them and undermining their successes in a way. And I mean, I can understand that. I don't agree with it, but I do understand where that feeling's coming from. However, I mean, you can't feel that way because this man, I mean, obviously, I doubt he's a genius, but it was great. I mean, this guy did some good work with this. And as another thing I'm reading on this article is that as Thomas Aquinas once argued that it would be okay to steal something, say food from the grocery store, because food is meant to support and address human needs. So basically it's okay because if it's an emergency, when, if someone's starving and they have no money and they're forced to steal, morally that's technically a little bit okay because, what's their other option is basically to starve to death, which if someone were to say that to deny them food at that point, that would be morally wrong. So, there's a bit of a distortion there if you can take that analogy and connect it. I didn't do a great job there. So you kind of have to take into balance into what your opinion is obviously where's the distinction between what is legally permissible and morally permissible? Obviously, well, not obviously, but I do think that this is both. Obviously, it's legally permissible. I mean, it's happened, and the police can't, or they aren't able to prosecute. But I also believe this man is ethically, morally, he's in the clear. I mean, there's nothing wrong with what he did. In fact, you think about the man whose house he's now taken ownership of, couldn't pay for it. He couldn't own up to his side of the bargain of, paying for the house that he said he would. So, in fact, I don't feel bad for him if he loses that house now to someone else who can take advantage of that system and get this house. But leave a comment, tell me what your opinion is on this. I think it was a fascinating story. Again, links will be in the description. Subscribe, give me a comment, let me know what you think. It's great, it's interesting. Bye.